Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to IAB Europe's Great Debate on Retail Media 2026. So good to see so many people already joining. I'm seeing the numbers getting up. We are expecting a couple of hundreds of participants, which is really cool. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Patricia Grundmann. I'm Managing Director of OB Advertising. We just renamed OB First Media Group to OB Advertising, and Vice Chair of IAB Europe's Retail and Commerce Media Committee. It is fantastic to see so many of you joining us today from across Europe, all of the European countries we are representing and beyond. Whether you're an IAB Europe member or part of the wider digital advertising ecosystem, everybody is welcomed. Here, this event brings together an array of retailers, brands, agencies, and technology partners from across Europe, all focused on one of the fastest evolving and most impactful areas of our industry, retail media. As many of you know, IAB Europe plays a central role in shaping the future of digital advertising, driving collaboration, supporting standardization, and representing the industry at a European level. Today's event is a reflection of this mission, creating a space for open discussion, diverse perspectives, and forward-looking ideas. I'm really looking forward to discuss a lot of, very hot topics and interesting, innovative topics. And there is no better time for this conversation than it is right now. Retail media is no longer just a high growth channel. It's becoming a core pillar of media strategy, sitting at the intersection of commerce, data, and of course, advertising. But with that growth comes complexity, from measurement and standardization to the role of AI and the evolution of programmatic capabilities. And that is exactly what we are here to unpack today. I'm very delighted to be co-hosting this session together with Jason Westcott. Jason is Global Head of Commerce Solutions at WPP Media and Chair of the IAB Europe Retail Media and Commerce Committee. Jason, over to you.
Thanks, Patricia, and welcome everyone to today's great debate event. I'm thrilled to be your co-host for today's event. So retail media has quickly evolved into one of the most strategically important channels for brands, allowing them to connect with consumers at the moments that matter most, when they're actively browsing, considering, and buying. We're seeing rapid growth in retail media networks across both digital and physical environments, alongside increasing investment, innovation, and scrutiny. And as the space matures, the questions are becoming more complex around measurement, interoperability, AI, and how we scale effectively across markets. And that's why events like today are so important. At IAB Europe, our goal is to bring the industry together to share insights, challenge assumptions, and collectively shape what comes next for retail and commerce media. Today is very much about that open discussion, practical perspectives, and the forward-looking view of where we're heading. We're also incredibly fortunate to have such a strong lineup of speakers joining us, leaders from across the ecosystem who are actively building and shaping this space. I'd like to therefore extend a huge thank you to our speakers and panelists for sharing their time and expertise with us today. Every one of them is a proud member of IAB Europe, and we're incredibly fortunate to have some of the brightest minds and top thought leaders in our industry joining us to share their insights and collaborate on our initiatives. So if you or your organization is interested in getting involved in future events or learning more about IAB Europe membership, please simply scan the QR code on the screen or use the link from the chat box to find out more about joining the IAB Europe community. And with that, I'll hand back to Patricia to walk us through today's agenda.
Thank you so much, Jason. We have a really exciting and very dynamic agenda today, bringing together strategic discussions, practical insights, and a few very lively moments along the way. We will start with a short introduction and update on IAB Europe's retail and commerce media roadmap by Jason, setting the stage with key priorities and what's coming next for the industry. From there, we move to our first panel, the AI-powered retail media supply chain, from insights to activation. Our speakers will explore how AI is transforming everything from audience insights to real-time activation, as well as the challenges this creates around measurement, incrementality, and governance. Next, we'll shift into one of the highlights of today's event, our Oxford-style debate. Who is not joining for the first time already knows this kind of debate, and I really enjoy it. The motion, should trade in media be unified or remain separate? Expect a lively and though provoking exchange as our speakers argue both sides of this increasingly important strategic question. Following the debate, we'll hear directly from IAB Europe in a short presentation on the latest developments in retail and commerce media standards, including updates to measurement version 2, the introduction of Flexi formats, and a look ahead to version 3. We'll then move into our second panel, Programmatic On-Site, Unlocking Scale, Non-Endemic Growth, and Cross-Market Comparability. This session will explore how programmatic is driving new opportunities for growth while also tackling the challenges of fragmentation and standardization. And finally, we are coming to the end of this event. We'll wrap up with a showcase session from the Trade Desk, highlighting real-world examples of how retail data is being activated to drive performance across the open internet. It's going to be an insightful 2 hours packed with expert perspectives, so I encourage you all to take full advantage of it. See it as an opportunity to engage, ask questions, and learn from our speakers, and maybe also connect as a follow-up to have more discussions and just connect and see what this event's just started.
Definitely. Great point. So before we kick off, a couple of quick housekeeping points. We are live today, so we encourage you to participate as much as possible by submitting questions for our panelists throughout the day. So just drop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window. Lastly, today's event is being recorded and we'll be sharing session videos and summaries on our website in the coming days. So with that, let's get started.
Yeah, let's go. And to kick things off, Jason will walk you through an update on IAB Europe's retail and commerce media roadmap, highlighting where we are today and what's coming next for the industry. And I think for us, it's a very proud part because we are now in our third year as chair and vice chair. So it's always good to see what this group is worked on for so many years.
Absolutely. So this is our wonderful new look agenda work plan, whatever you want to call it. So if you're familiar with this, you'll see there are 4 pillars across the top. We have industry, education and definitions, standardization and guidelines, market insights, and thought leadership and networking. So all of our work within the Retail and Commerce Media Committee fits into one of these 4 segments. So if we start with industry, education and definitions, our 2026 focused areas are going to be around updating our definitions and glossary. There's a 101 guide to retail media. We're going to update that. We put this out every year. There's a product matrix, which is really, really useful, which you can see across the board, which retail media products are being used across a range of different retailers and commerce operators. It's great for us to update this on an annual basis so we can see what's available across the board. We're going to look at AI use cases across the supply chain as well, looking at tips for AI in retail and commerce media as well. Programmatic and real-time bidding for on-site. Non-endemic, how to leverage data and the on-site opportunities, the use of clean rooms, and convergence and coexistence of trade and media. Our industry education and definitions are so important because the industry as a whole will come to IAB Europe as an authority on these things, and a lot of this documentation is really helpful for various different levels across the industry. Standardization and guidelines. So standardization is where I see we will have the most impact within the industry. We're looking at a version 3 of our on and off-site measurement standards, and this is going to expand importantly into commerce media, so travel and finance, as well as retailers, which we're already very well covered. We want to expand and strengthen our certification program. So this is where retailers and tech providers can get measurement standards certified and have that certification for 2 years. Very, very important program, and probably the highest priority on our committee's work plan for the year. And we're just going to put a little bit more emphasis on in-store measurement guidelines as in-store retail media goes from strength to strength. The market insights are super, super important. And again, IAB Europe is an authority on these things. And so many of our studies and reports are cited across the industry year over year. I think the most important thing to pull out is the annual Attitudes to Retail Media survey. This is going to go out into the field through May and June, and then we normally launch the report at our big event at the beginning of October, which is the Retail Media Impact Summit. So one to look out for. And then finally, for leadership and networking, you can see the list there. I think the most important thing will be our version 2 of the Retail Media Impact Summit. So if you were there with us last year in Amsterdam at the Tobacco Theatre, it was an absolutely amazing event, very, very successful event, and we're looking to build on that momentum and have a spectacular event for 2026, which I'm really, really looking forward to. We put out a lot of great content and really showcase the talent, experience, and skills that we have across our committee. We have so many superstars on our committee, and our podcasts, our blog posts, everything like that gives all of these people, a chance to shine and help the industry by sharing their knowledge. So thank you very much for listening. That was a very, very quick overview of the Retail and Commerce Media Committee work plan.
Thank you, Jason. And as you mentioned, events like this one, and especially the ones we meet in person, are a good chance to meet all of those superstars of our industry in person. And it's really, really good to see you all in person. So thank you for setting up the stage. And now we will dive into our first discussion of the day. Our opening panel focuses on the AI-powered retail media supply chain from insights to activation. This panel will explore how AI is transforming the retail media supply chain from insights to real-time activation for advertisers, retailers, and customers. Industry experts will explore how AI is reshaping personalization, bidding, and ad operations. Panelists will also discuss measurement challenges like incrementality and the rise of synthetic audiences. The session concludes with a candid look at governance, oversight, and control as AI scales beyond human capacity. So I'm very, very excited because it's a very hot and a lot of discussed topic. Thank you to all the panelists. And of course, warm welcome to our moderator, James Taylor, founder and CEO of Particular Audience. James, over to you, and please introduce our panel.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hopefully this has worked and you can now see the panelists. My name is James Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of Particular Audience. We are a retail media and personalization platform. We've been steeped in different arenas and areas of machine learning and AI since 2017, starting with a sort of predictive machine learning and more recently on the generative side. And that distinction is something that we'll touch on quite a lot in this panel. I'd also like to introduce Cédric Epiard, who is the VP of Product at Mirakl, Diana Abebrese, who is the Global Lead of Retail Media at EPAM, an Empathy Lab, and Polina Melnikova, who is the Strategic Growth Director of Moloco. Now, I actually think this is a brilliant panel to have on this topic across Particular Audience, across Mirakl, across Moloco. You've got some real AI native, AI first vendors, tech solutions, tackling some really hard problems and balancing AI with legacy challenges like latency. And you've got Diana, of course, and the amazing work that she's doing at EPAM and Empathy Lab across retailers. Now, something that I'm especially grateful for today is to have Diana to really balance and make a case for the omni-channel perspective. Cédric, myself, Polina. We have an inherent bias to on-site. Now, there's a reason for that. On-site digital has a tremendous amount of data. It has your explicit data, what you're searching for, how you're navigating, your dwell time, your hovers, your scroll depth, your scroll rate. There's so many different little signals that we can pick up on. So maybe we've cut a corner there and just focusing on site. But Diana is very much here to showcase and discuss all of the ways that you can actually achieve it outside of the website and app experience. So thank you all for joining. Just to set the stage, AI in retail media. So AI in retail media. I think we can largely all agree that there is a tripartite win to be had here. You have the concept of the ROAS and efficiency gain for advertisers and brands. You have the improvement to yield and ultimately profit margins for retailers, and the customer should have a better and more relevant experience. The best adverts should not feel like adverts at all. They should be contextually relevant, native, and delight with discovery. So I talked about signals and why we're also biased for on-site. I really, really, really do believe that we are in a complete mindset shift away from legacy approaches to targeting, such as segments, manual keyword targeting, placement buys. This is very much the old world mentality. And we really are shifting from segments to signals. Your explicit signals, your implicit signals. And that leads me in to my first question for the panel. So whilst I argue for on-site, and of course there is a broader omni-channel opportunity, I will direct my first question to Cédric. So Cédric, looking at ML and predictive AI today, let's talk a little bit about personalization and recommendation engines. Mirakl, I believe, I remember they acquired Target to Sell a couple of years ago.
Yes.
How are you using AI to move beyond static segments and capture these signals in real time?
Yeah, thanks for the question, because yes, we have deeply integrated Target to Sell technology into recommendation engine. The key innovation here is that personalization happens in real time, at the moment of intent, not from a pre-assigned segment, as you said. It was the old school way to do, because an intent on the first moment, it's okay, but after maybe 10 minutes, the purchase is already done. So every user search generates a real-time proximity vector. And if it is going to another page, it will change automatically, instantly. That's why, so it's more live, it's not statistic. Not statistic and not static. Which is also significant is that the architecture of what we have already done is natively LLM compatible due to the proximity vector, but each user is embedded. So the underlying technology with LLM is quite the same. And we have another question behind that. It's more about the goals that we have behind. On the retailer side, each ad placement runs its own unique algorithm. It evolves automatically, which is a very big change versus what I know and saw on the market 4 years ago. Our algorithm evolved alone, but not without objectives. Margin, sell-through rate, brand visibility. For retailer, for example, 1P and 3P share. The business constraints like stock level, exclusivities, commercial priorities are layered in. I think it's a big change versus what I known about classical segment. I want intent. You will take some visitor from a certain type of page. No, it's real-time segmentation.
I especially love the comment about having a unique algorithm for placement there, because I think that, if we zoom out of language like proximity vectors and things, and we think about, what is that customer experience, there is the traditional funnel from discovery through to conversion. And I think that each step in that journey is especially important to apply not only business rules, but certain enablement rules for the advertisers. So yeah, I think that's great. And just for everyone that maybe doesn't know what a vector is or what a proximity vector means, right? Like we have to literally think in like hyperdimensional space, which we can't do as humans because we're used to 3-dimensional space. I mean, some of these algorithms that we talk about might have 700 dimensions to them. But to sort of put that into perspective, you know, if I have a glass of water and a cup of coffee, right, they're probably going to be closer to each other in vector space than this pen, which is going to be somewhere over here. And if that customer has shown some interest in that water, well, you know, the coffee is going to be a better recommendation than the pen, given their context. Cédric, would you better that analogy, or do you think that's all right?
No, I think the analogy was great. It's just as you said that a lot of variable that it's not human. It's not on your human capabilities. Like that's why algorithm is so great. It's because we are not able to do it in real time or not able to do it. So that's why I think your image was great to explain that.
Brilliant. So maybe if I could point and sort of bring Polina in as the next panelist to speak. You know, Moloco has been doing some really interesting work, not only thinking about this prediction of next action and that contextual relevancy, but the real-time bidding and how that influences this prediction. Polina, can you tell us a little bit about this and how you see it from a Moloco perspective?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I also really loved your analogy with the coffee and the water. It's actually a very cool new perspective to think about the vectors. But yeah, at Moloco, so we use a few things and a few things work together. And like we mentioned, in not very humanly comprehensible way. But basically, there's two real-time systems working in tandem. So there is relevance from the transformer model, and then there's the ad decision from the real-time bidding. And they work together in kind of tandem. They complement each other under live constraints and also in very low latency, so millions of ad requests per second. So basically for each impression, we're deciding which ads are going to be the most relevant to a specific user at a specific point in time and on a specific page, wherever the user is browsing. And again, it's not static keywords or audience level, it's per impression for that particular user. So Transformer trains on the user event data and the catalog that we get from the retailer, and then it generates an understanding of a user preferences and predicts what the user is most likely to click on next and interact with. And we also train the models every 2 hours, retrain them so that we capture also more recent trends, also specific seasonality. And also each model is specific to every retailer. So it's basically unique per retailer because conditions might be different or seasonality might be different. However, part of getting an accurate prediction is also understanding users' intent in that session, in that particular second, like you mentioned before. So when we make the prediction, we also use the most recent clicks to understand how the user is behaving in that particular session. And so the output of that prediction is the PCTR and PCVR, so predicted click-through rate or conversion rate, which is then applied to the auction bids to predict the revenue. So traditionally, like in the old world, like you mentioned, you would decide the auction based on the bids, but we actually decide based on the predicted revenue. We also call that eCPM. And on top of that, there's also business constraints that come into the picture, like Cédric mentioned. So we consider factors like what campaigns are active, what are targeting parameters, what is stock level of the items, any filtering that may be applied from the retailer side. So actually, where people assume there's conflict between the transfer model and the real-time bidding, it's actually where the design gets quite interesting. So the transformer might say, I think this item is most relevant for that particular user. But then the real-time layer also accounts for budget pacing, brand safety rules, or any business rules set by the retailer, and actually decides a different ad. And that this is an override, but it's not a flaw. It's quite intentional because AI optimizes within the set guardrails. And those guardrails actually how retailers stay in control without actually using the full power of AI, but without slowing the machine down. Yeah.
And just to sort of again sort of take a step back and talk to a couple of things that you've said there. So, you know, when you lean on more recent clicks and engagements from a customer, perhaps, you know, a good analogy for the audience might be to talk to what happens when you're shopping on behalf of someone, right? Just because we know what you've done in a prior session or whatever, if you've suddenly switched to buying party equipment for your niece's birthday party, right? Suddenly your context and intent has very much changed. So that recency of those signals really does matter as you shift. Is that what you were trying to communicate with the move to recent actions?
Yeah, exactly. And also like some other examples that I encounter a lot is also like people for grocery retailers, like people shopping on behalf, like a mom shopping for the family basically, and like one kid is gluten-free, for example, another kid only prefers meat. So there's a lot of different varieties of the basket that comes together. So then, yeah, that's exactly where understanding of his purchase history, but also real-time behavior really comes in favor.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Now, Diana, we've made a fairly word soup rich case for on-site. Tell us, what is happening in the omni-channel world here?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm bathed in sunlight. It's not that sunny here, but I'm just can tell the sun rays on my face. Yeah, so I think the reality is that AI is moving us closer to being able to deliver on the promise of true omni-channel planning and activation. We talk about it a lot. We've been talking about it a lot, but it's for a long time, but it's so complex. So AI is now allowing us to be able to query and harmonize multiple and disparate data sources and data points to make sense of signals across the entire shopper journey, and that's not always on site. So I do agree that contextual signals are often much more powerful in retailer-owned channels, and you've talked a lot about what that means for on-site. I think when it comes to in-store, it's much less about one-to-one targeting because screens are never just seen by one person. And I do agree with you, Polina and James, around the fact that you don't know who people are or who they're shopping for. So the shopper is not always a consumer. So it's less about one-to-one targeting, and it's more about creating dynamic store profiles based on historic and real-time data points. So what's the footfall? Who's using loyalty data to say who's actually shopping at the moment, using actual transactional and sales data about products, what products are shifting, stock data, and any external factors. Traditionally, in-store targeting has been done by using historical data points only, but AI allows us to have real-time decisioning. So what ad to show where and when in the store, but that's only if retailers are ready. So whilst the technology is there, we still see lots of retailers still selling on an almost tenancy basis, so a slot basis. For offsite, we don't have those contextual signals. So audiences, as discussed as old school, are still key. I guess the benefit here is because you have so much richer contextual data from on-site, you can enrich those audience segments with more data points. And really what we're seeing, and we're working a lot with people like Polin and Sainsbury's and Polin, but where traditionally it could take days to request, build and activate audience segments, AI is now allowing us to do that on the fly and in real time, and really building an audience on the go and then pushing it to an activation channel. So we're seeing that omnichannel can bring it all together into a single customer journey.
I think that's really an important point as well for this audience to take away, which is despite offsite, depending on audiences, getting down to a segment of one is no longer a fiction, right? So just keeping some time. So I'll move fairly swiftly through the next question. So from the advertiser and the ad ops standpoint, we've got things like automated ad set builders. There are agentic flows in ad ops. I saw, Cody, for example, that they announced their MCP server for their platform configuration. MCP, I think, is a really powerful technology. That's it from an adult standpoint, but MCP is equally something that retailers should be investing in to allow AI to interact with their systems and their data in a way that speak the same language, AI to AI. So I think MCP is certainly something interesting. If I could direct a question back to you, Diana, with protocols like MCP and agentic workflows becoming a reality, perhaps conversational interfaces, perhaps through third-party AIs, orchestration is sort of seeing a bit of an overhaul, I would say, and especially potentially cross-channel. Now, I don't know what you can talk about with Pollen. From an IAB event, I sort of took away that perhaps this is what Pollen is actually accomplishing.
Yeah, I mean, and Nectar 360 talk a lot about pollen, so I'm it's all very much in the public, but essentially it's helping users to achieve smarter outcomes faster and easier, right? So alongside most of the AI-driven media planning tools that we're using orchestration agents as a key enabler of this, and it could be things like conversational platforms that just allow users to get to what they're trying to do much quicker by potentially preempting what they're trying to do. And we see that a lot with the Pollen platform. And it can do that across the whole end-to-end campaign lifecycle. So briefing, planning, activating, reviewing, optimizing, and a lot of that means that tasks that would have taken days or weeks in the past can now happen in parallel, as you can delegate tasks to multiple agents and can happen in minutes. So the agents that we're using for orchestration can proactively define strategies. They can go away and do some research. They can delegate tasks to other agents and communicate with each other in parallel. So we're seeing an awful lot of benefits and gains to user experience by using orchestration within AI platforms.
And a critical question here: does it ever get stuff wrong?
Of course, and actually just understanding the learning process for the LLMs and the tools is really important. And we've got a couple of different ways we're working with different clients at the moment. For one client, we're starting off by letting the LLM just do its thing, understand what it would do without any instruction and any guardrails, and then we layer over the top the guardrails so that we're not restricting the LLM by giving it our opinions and our ways of working. And on the other platform, the other client we're working with, we're actually giving them a guardrail and a framework and saying, start with that, and then use the LLM to build on learning. So I think there are two ways you can manage that getting it wrong and that governance piece. But yes, it's a learning experience, and it should be ongoing testing, understanding, and instruction.
Cédric, Polina, from a product perspective, how are you seeing agentic flows or automation influence the advertiser experience, the ad buying experience?
From my side, I see that we are lucky here because the main real challenge on retail media is the fragmentation of all these inventories, which means that brands, sellers have to have limited time, but they are not able to manage and master every different platform that we are providing on all the providers are giving to them. So the entry costs are very prohibitive. So with an MCP, we are actively building an MCP. We want to let the advertiser and the retailer interact directly with our systems, with their own agents. And after that, it will be helpful for them because at the end, it will remove the complexity and giving back the time to spend, like Diana says, on the real subject. We need to be focused about the objective, not the duty of improving some things or doing something. So I think it will help a lot to be able to resolve the fragmentation problem of retail media. Another perspective is more on the product side. On product side, because I'm VP product, so I will speak about product, or we will be able to build product. On product, it was always we need to design a product with a UI, and our only customer is a human. Tomorrow, we need to manage two type of customer, the agent and the human. So it will be more and more important to invest in the API, the data models, and be sure that it will be clear and work for AI agents. If not, we will be in pain because more and more our user will use agents. Of course, it will improve a lot of the productivity of all the team for retailer side and also a seller on board side.
You're on mute, James.
Yeah.
Very good. Polina, just to try and keep time and get some of the other questions in, may I actually go beyond just that sort of campaign automation and buying orchestration and ask you directly about creative and how, you know, generative AI is kind of at this point of being able to create ads, but are we comfortable with that yet? You know, what's the Moloco view?
Yeah, I think so. Our approach to the like generative AI kind of sends you lets you set your own brand guidelines. So then there's also some governance principles here that allows you to automate within certain guardrails. So in that workflow, you can still review it after the fact, but then it allows you to automate the process because you have those brand guidelines in place, which I think is kind of key in terms of governance for generative AI.
Yeah, I think governance is the critical word there. You know, I think that AI isn't just going to run amok and get rid of every software as a service system and human. I think there's a great deal of governance that can be employed both through the platforms that we're using and that human oversight without it being a bottleneck. We are at an interesting inflection point. You know, agentic flows are getting to a point where it's more than you can even sort of monitor as an individual, but we're not quite ready to give up the tools there. And that's really been a thing since January this year only. So it'd be very interesting to see where we land next. Incrementality is something that, you know, we could spend the whole 30 minutes talking about, but we won't today. Diana, if I could actually just direct a question to you, because we've had some really interesting conversation around using agents as synthetic audiences, as fake consumers. Does it really work?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and to be honest, synthetic audiences, we've got some really good examples of that. Less about incrementality and more about testing new concepts, testing messaging, testing creatives, etc. The way it works is that we have a solution that we can deploy within our customers' own environments, and essentially it builds synthetic personas off the back of customer data. And what it allows you to do is do user research really quickly and very cost effectively in a matter of minutes. So we did a lot of work with Mars where they were testing out new product variants and testing those on different target groups and getting their feedback on their thoughts around those products. And they actually compared it to actual research they'd done. So physical research, the same questions, the same types of users, same target audience, same products, and they got a 75 to 80% accuracy from the synthetic audience. The way we see it happening is testing out and forecasting responses from campaigns and performance from campaigns by looking at different target audiences, different messages, different formats, different offers, and we're starting to see that being used quite a lot within retail media. And as I said, it's very easy to do, it's very quick, and it's very cost effective. So I would recommend that being something that people look at if they want to. It removes a bit of the risk out of doing innovation and new things.
I love the using the buyer personas and the existing research that we have on customers to affect what the synthetic audiences should be. You know, I've done some experimentation with LLM as a judge for some of our search models, and frankly, it doesn't get as much right. So I think, yeah, telling the agent who they are is actually probably quite a smart move. Now, we could talk all day. There's, you know, from Bayesian over legacy approaches to incrementality and data measurement. Governance is an area that we could dive into, and again probably speak to all day. We won't have time for that, unfortunately. Our panel is up, but I would really like to thank Polina, Cédric, and Diana for some amazing and quick contributions. You know, to everyone out in the audience, please reach out to us on LinkedIn, via email. If you want to talk about anything that any of the panel has spoken about today, there really is a great amount of information that we have to discuss in this area. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, James. And thank you to all of our panelists for a really insightful discussion. So Cédric, Polina, and Diana, thank you so much. So it's clear while AI is unlocking huge potential across the retail media supply chain, it's also raising important questions around measurement, control, and how we scale these capabilities responsibly as an industry. So we're now going to shift gears into a different format, but one that tackles another big strategic question that's facing our space. So like Patricia said earlier, we have an Oxford-style debate where we'll explore the motion: should trade and media be unified, or should they remain separate? This is a topic that sits right at the heart of how organizations are structured, how budgets are allocated, and ultimately how success is measured in retail media. So before we begin, we'd like to hear from you. A poll should now appear on your screen. Please cast your vote. So do you believe trade and media should be unified or remain separate? I'm going to give 30 seconds, so please cast your vote very, very quickly, and we can have a look at the poll, and then we can do the debate, and then we can go back to the poll afterwards and see, if any of our speakers manage to move the needle either way. But very, very simple question: should the convergence and coexistence of trade and media, should they be unified or separated? Cool. So we have a result. So we're just under 2/3. They should be unified, and we're a little bit over 1/3 that they should be separated. So that's great as a starting position. Let's see if anything changes within the next few minutes. So now I'm delighted to introduce our moderator, Nicolas Trannoy, who will guide us through what promises to be a lively and thought-provoking debate alongside our speakers, Sébastien and Lisa. Nicolas, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jason. So as everyone understood, we're going to have the opposition on the topic. So we have two experts to be able to do it. On one side, Lisa Avery, Director of Customer Success, EMEA Zitcha, will argue in favor of unification. And on the other side, Sébastien Camusot, VP Retailers at Unlimitail, will argue for separation. So maybe to frame a little bit the debate, obviously retail media is no longer a niche. Look at the number of people connected today, it sounds pretty obvious. For the past 5 years, it's been growing more or less 20% year on year, outpacing social, search, and every other digital advertising. If we look at Europe alone, for this year 2026, we're looking at the figure that should be around 25 billion euros to reach. The UK being the most important market, followed just after by France and Germany. And the position of retail media is a bit particular because it sits at the intersection of historically two very distinct worlds. On one side, the trade marketing, including promotion, shelf space, commercial negotiation between brand and retailers. And on the other side, the media part, with the classic audience targeting, brand building, and reach and frequency, obviously. For decades, those two disciplines have been totally separated, with different teams, different budget, different KPIs. But more and more with retailers building walled garden and platforms on one side, and on the other, FMCG brands that are seeking closed-loop measurements, the line between the two is becoming harder to draw day by day. It is precisely this tension that IAB Europe 5-part series on the conversion and coexistence of trade and media and retail media that was published this April sets out to unpack. In our case, right now, the question is no longer theoretical, which is, should retail media be governed both and measured as a unified discipline? Or does merging trade and media create conflicts of interest, distort brand investment, and undermine editorial integrity? So you've already taken your vote. What we'll try to do in the next few minutes is to try to change your mind. So maybe to start, Sébastien, before we dive in, let's maybe clarify the terms. When we say trade and media in retail media, are we actually talking about the same investment pool, or fundamentally two different things that are wearing the same clauses? Sébastien? Nicolas, I might need some help to get Sébastien on the call.
Yes, he is in the call. He just needs to make sure that his camera is on and audio.
I'm hoping this is vote stocking up for me already.
Yes, we have him on now.
Join, sorry. Okay. Okay, the button is ready right now. So yeah, the trade, what is trade and what is media. First, trade is the B2B commercial negotiation between brand and retailer. So you pay to be on the shelf, listings, shelf, promotion, gondola ends. So the KPIs to monitor that is the selling or the in-store market share. And you have media, is advertising, inventory purchase to be seen by the shopper. So you pay for attention and you have different KPIs, but both start from the same source, the brand, and go to the same destination, to the retailer. But they answer two fundamentally different questions, I think. Is my product available? Vs my product desirable? So it's not the same. It's not the same objective, and I think the real risk is that trade disguised as media. So this is my answer to your question.
So maybe Lisa, from your perspective, I mean, if I'm guessing that you're viewing this as a unified budget, how would you manage the risk that Sébastien just put? And also, in the end, in the practice of the day-to-day, does the brand team or the media agency win the final control over the topic?
What I want to do first is just almost think about this from a brand perspective. And Sébastien, you're completely right. It is the same pot of money. So we both agree we're starting with the same pot of money, right? And in my mind, both investments are actually answering the same fundamental question: is how much am I spending with this retailer to be visible to shoppers, be that on the shelf, be that online, be there someone else, and what am I getting for it? A gondola end or a search placement, they're different pieces of inventory, let's call them, but they are answering the same business problem, which is how do I win at the point of influence and the point of purchase? So trying to achieve the same outcome through two completely different teams isn't just creating inefficiency. In my mind, it's actually creating the silos and creating risk for both retailers and brands and actually customers at the end of the day. When trade and media sit in different teams, they've got separate budgets, separate metrics. Spend can move between them, and there's no actual accountability for anyone. So yes, you might pay for that shelf space, but what is it actually driving for your business, and is it worth it? Or yes, you might invest for a sponsored products placement, and ROAS might look good, but if it's not helping you sell through your product at the end of the day, what is the actual benefit of making that from a retailer perspective? If we have single visibility, everything in one place against a core set of outcomes, then actually transparency will break down the silos and link everything together. And in my mind, it closes the risk, it doesn't build it. And when we think about, is it the agency, is it the brand winning control, is it even the retailer winning control? That to me is almost the wrong question. Everyone is bringing value to the table. When a CFO is looking at this, he's looking at total spend with a retailer and what is the outcome of that spend for the business. It's not an individual line item. They're not completely different investments when they're on the balance sheet. They see one number, and I think everyone needs to come to the table now to be driving towards the same outcome so we can deliver the promised returns that we have. And the whole time they stay separate, it actually creates more risk for the industry.
Okay, so in a nutshell, what you're arguing is the measure is the key topic around there, because at the end of the day, we should be looking at one key figure that is one key set of measure to be able to do it. Now, if we want Sébastien to keep media and trade separated, how do you believe we can ever reach this true closed loop measurement? And fundamentally, the fact that those data right now are being siloed, isn't that the root cause of the attribution problem in the end? So this, the only way to solve the measurement, the problem we have at the moment would be unification. How do you see it?
I think it's interesting because your point is interesting, Lisa, but I think same money, same team, you can do different jobs. So with same goal, you have different methods. For example, the CFO sees one line for marketing and research and development, but we don't mix those either. So trade is a deal with the retailer, and media is a way to reach the shopper. So mix them, and I think you get shelf fees dressed up as targeting. So that's not media. I think at the end that's a rent. So sales and marketing share the same goal too, but we keep them apart. I think mix them, and I think at the end the brand dies in a short-term promo. So this is the first point. The second one I think is when you speak about customer first and means stronger media rules, I think not weaker ones. So if the customer comes first, media rules matter more, I think, not less. So ads, it's in a retail media network must meet the same standards as any other media. So mix ads with the trade, and ads, I think at the end will become hidden promo. So shoppers see it at the end, and trust breaks very fast. So retail media network, I think, can't win it back. So you can put the customer first and treat them like a funnel, but I think strong media rules protect the customer and the shopper. So mixing with trade does clearly the opposite. So at the end, to conclude, I think move fast now and pay later about technologies. And as you say, Lisa, is first mover wins are real a good win, but so our first mover regret. So moving fast is not the same as moving blind. So the model moves first, the tools catch up. So I think retail media can do it this right time, but define clear rules, share standards, and I think fair measurements. So let build the base first.
So I guess on this, the thing that's interesting is that there are some learnings that we can get from the previous digital waves that we had. And as you were mentioning, in reality, we're all looking for speed, and we have the ability with retail media to do it probably faster than the previous phases. So Lisa, if we look at this, I think the argument that is we need to build infrastructure first before looking at conversion, I think is a valid one. But the reality, if we take a step back, usually what happened in the past is what ended up as being standards was simply the rules that were set by the players that had the most data or the most inventory, because they had the power to do it. So if we want to maintain if trade and media remain siloed, this would leave the room for the largest CMNs or RMN to define the rules in their own terms. So that would not be very fair either in terms of how to move forward. How do you see it?
It's a good point, and you've got a good point. Wouldn't it be really nice if we had all these standards in place, we had all the tools and we had all the practice, and then everyone decided to move? I get the appeal of it, but tools always follow commercial reality, and we shouldn't let internal blockers at retailers, in the most part, get in the way of something that I believe is right for the customer and actually right for the industry. Nobody here waited for the perfect attribution model before starting up their RMN. It's something that's evolved over time. And if we're being honest, it's something that we're all working on now together. This is already happening. And it's the biggest retail media networks are already embedding these conversations into their JBPs today. New networks which are launching are doing so with way less distinction between trade and media than we've seen before when they're taking it to market. The trade team's already out there having these conversations. So it's not a future state, it's already here. And if brands and other networks who aren't already doing it don't come to the table now, these big RMNs are already going to be the one dictating it because they're already doing it. So now is the time, if you want to help write that rule book, that's when you get involved. And I think having the customer at the heart of everything, Sébastien, what you said, I couldn't agree more. Retail media networks, they're not publishers. The reason this is such an attractive investment opportunity is because the customer is sitting at the heart of what everyone does, right? Both the brand and the network exist to service that end customer. And if trade and media remain separate, the ability for you to have a meaningful conversation across all parts of the journey, which isn't linear anymore, right? We all know it hops around. It is structurally impossible. If you've got two things which are sitting in completely different places, the journey is siloed. And actually the only person who then owns the journey becomes a CEO at an organization. And that's not healthy for anyone. First mover advantage is real. It might sound extreme to say it, but if everyone remembers when e-commerce happened, there were lots of brands that didn't get on board with it, the likes of HMV, Blockbuster, Toys R Us. They saw e-commerce coming and they all had reasons why the time wasn't right, right? And they missed the boat, and you don't always get a second chance. It's becoming way more competitive in the marketplace. There's more and more networks. The complexity of choosing where to invest is growing. And this is the time where you can actually start really delivering for your customers and building those deeper relationships between brands and networks. And those who are ahead will drive better experiences for their customers and longer term investments with brands. It's the same pot of money. Sitting them in separate systems just doesn't make sense.
I'm unfortunately old enough to remember the move to e-commerce. So yeah, I think it's a more than fair point. I'm going to give you each one 60 seconds to make your closing argument, taking into account, Sébastien, that you have the biggest load because most people voted on the side of Convergence. So I'll let you, Sébastien, start, and then Lisa will close.
Yeah, I think in conclusion, we all agree that the customer come first. The real question is what that means in practice. For me, it means earning their attention, not just driving a sale. Bringing trade and media closer can make sense, but fully merging them brings a risk. The ruder commercial side often takes over the creative one. So that's worth a pause before we go all the way. So we have learned a lot from digital media in the last 10 years, what works and what we can do differently. So retail media is a real chance. Let's build it in the solid ground this time, I think.
Lisa?
I would say if you're a brand, don't wait and let the retailers write the rules for you. If you're a network, don't watch your competitors do it and then struggle to catch up. Don't just sit there and watch while the market moves without you. The customer doesn't think in terms of channels or differentiate between trade and retail media. They see a retailer, a brand, a product, and a reason to buy. The question is, are you going to follow them or not?
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the debate, and I think what we've heard today is I think reflects something that the industry is actually genuinely wrestling with, because it's complicated, and also because it's not anymore a theoretical question. So the debate you just had is probably happening in budget meetings, and having also impacts on the organizations of the different members of the group. Now you've heard both sides. I think it's the both sides have merit, and now the question will be back to you can vote again to see if we actually manage to move the needle or not. Jason, back to you.
Thanks, Nicolas. And a big thank you to Sébastien, and a big thank you to Lisa as well for such a lively, thought-provoking debate. Honestly, one of my favorite topics, and I've kind of lived through it in several different positions, both on the agency side and the brand side. So that was really, really interesting. So there's no simple answer. And that's exactly what makes it such an important discussion for our industry right now. So let's come back to our audience poll. So earlier we asked whether trade and media should be unified or remained separate. So let's take a look if the results will change after the discussion. So just a pause for the results, and we'll just wait and see. Hopefully everyone can vote. Let me know if Lisa was able to sway even more, or if Sébastien was able to make up some ground. Okay. So a slight movement. The overall result is exactly the same. I think we're still looking at them being unified. I think Sébastien, you managed to move. No, actually, I'm wrong. It's gone slightly more in favor of you, Lisa, by 1%. So I think you were 63% before, and it's now 64%. So yeah, very close, very close debate. Really enjoyed that one. Love this format. Thank you to both of you so much. So yeah, the audience has spoken on that. So. It's really interesting to see a spread of perspectives, perhaps even a shift That's what we saw. With that now, I'm going to hand back over to Patricia, and she's going to take us into the next part of today's agenda.
Thank you, Jason. Now, moving on to our next session, we'll hear from IAB Europe on the new standards for retail and commerce media, including updates to measurement version 2, the introduction of Flexi formats, and a look ahead to what's coming in version 3. So please join me in welcoming Yara Daher. All right, so I think we will skip this short presentation and move on directly to the next panel discussion. Let's go directly to the next panel on programmatic on-site, unlocking scale, non-endemic growth, and cross-market comparability. I'm very curious to hear all the insights from those experts, especially non-endemic growth and how programmatic can drive it for on-site. It's a very hot discussed topic, and as retail media matures, programmatic is playing a key role in expanding reach and unlocking new revenue opportunities, while also raising important questions around interoperability, measurement, and maintaining a seamless customer experience. I'm delighted to hand over to our moderator, Alessandro Zanotti, a beautiful name, who will guide us through the discussion. So Alessandro, over to you and your panel.
Thank you so much. And I think I don't have technical problems, actually, because I was scared, actually, looking at the past, what happened, but it all works. It's good news. And we've got an amazing panel of experts today, actually, from different businesses, let's say agencies, and an amazing topic to tackle. In fact, by a lot of people, programmatic is considered the next way of growth for retail media networks, because it deals with one of the biggest problems we have, we all know actually, that are in retail media, that is the fragmentation of the networks. So imagine a scenario where there is a programmatic layer that sits potentially across all of the on-site networks. But to do that, actually, you need retailers to open up to programmatic on one side, and you need the brands to see the value and invest in programmatic. We mean endemic and non-endemic brands as well. So this will be the topic of discussion today. Got a few questions, but before that, actually, I let the panelists introduce themselves, which is good actually before starting with the conversation. Céline, to you first, and then the others.
Alessandro. Hi, everyone. I'm Céline. I'm joining today on behalf of Uber Advertising. I look after CPG and retail verticals across EMEA, and I will be sharing mostly a retail media platform point of view today.
I think to you, Paul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul. I come from Cody. Cody is a platform used by various commerce media platforms for a number of things, including ad serving. And our area is we've also built SSP style capabilities that connect retailers on site into buyers on Trade Desk, DV360, SA360, etc. So that real convergence. So excited for this panel.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mazen, to you. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mazen. I lead retail media and partnerships at Publicis Media Middle East, so I'm based in Dubai. We have built a retail media entity in the last 2 years, and part of what we do as well, we work with retailers as advisors and consultants. So we have a strategic partnership with many retailers and also with many partners in the ecosystem from the tech perspective as well. Very excited and happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks for the intro. But actually, let's start our work right now. I have 5 questions for you. Actually, feel free to to answer the way you want, but just keep actually limiting the answers actually to the time available. I leave to you actually as great experts. But I would start with a scenario question. I told you actually it's something that is really appealing, and it's really an opportunity to fundamentally change the scale and accessibility of retail media for both endemic and non-endemic. So I would like you, please, to get your viewpoint on that, starting probably by Céline, actually, as a beginner, and then I leave to the other panelists as well. Please, to you.
Yes, of course. Happy to kick us off from that retail media platform point of view, actually, for this one. I think when we think about programmatic and when we think about retail media platforms have always been traditionally, I think, walled garden, was maybe confined to point of sale. And with the phase of programmatic capabilities coming into the retail media networks now, I think we're probably now talking about breaking the boundaries of that traditional retail storefront a little bit, and bringing those capabilities into the mix. Where probably what we're really doing is fundamentally unlocking that scale through that extension that all of these platform needs as well. And leaning into things like self-serve platforms, in the end, you're probably removing the friction tax that agencies or brands might have in the end, by trying to cooperate with a lot of different retail media networks along the way, which means that you can activate campaigns quickly and confidently. You can get a consistency of an ad platform that is easy to reach as well, and also with an added layer of the surgical precision that retail media data generally brings into these plans, and probably on the more of the flip side of the equation is also you're creating this accessibility through a standard model, right? So one of the biggest barriers is the entry because of that fragmentation back into retail media networks. So I think programmatic actually changes the game by introducing that established buying standards that agencies or brands already use, know, and trust.
Thank you, Céline.
Yeah, maybe I will just add, Sanan covered everything, but from my perspective, I think if I look into it, there are two big elements for this. So for retailers with Endemic and with the one we work with, we bring, by opening up the on-site programmatic, you open up to new, broader type of advertisers who never really advertised with you before. They're not endemics. And then one exciting project, and that was my first retail project back in 2024, was a on-site programmatic for Landmark, one of the biggest retailers, and it was really on-site, and we were focusing only on an endemic. We did not touch at all the endemic because we saw a huge opportunity from financial sector, from real estate, and banks as well, on really tapping into that an endemic, because there's value. And the biggest value for endemic is you are really on this on-site, on that placement where you have the consumer buying and spending money, and then being there relevant and gaining the trust of the retailers and showing a credit card or offer and so on. That's piece of it. And then for brands, you are bringing in the programmatic, as Seren mentioned, the self-service, the transparency, the real-time bidding, the dynamic creative, and also the measurement. So there's a lot of added value for brands by enabling that within their multi-line, I would say, media plan, because it is not a silent activation, one line written media, but this is across a digital media plan. And then I see a lot of added value given to clients, to brands from that perspective, and by enabling on-site programmatic.
Thank you. And to you, Paul, now.
I mean, I'm not going to repeat the gist of what the other guys were saying in terms of the changes. I think I guess the only add is just kind of like handling the sort of elephant in the room, which is with regard to how much of retail media on site today is still managed service. and the pain that many retail media networks go through to try and educate long tail brands, etc., on using their self-serve interfaces, what's involved there. And the ability that we're looking at now, which is, okay, this is a platform you likely already know, especially if you're a holder of that kind of incremental budget, right, which sits in an agency. So yeah, it's to me, this is part of retail media or commerce media becoming much more like media businesses that can sit alongside any other part of a media plan.
Yeah. No, yeah, thank you for the perspective. And in fact, actually, I tend to say always, it was an easy work with a few media platforms, let's say, owning the world. Now we need to deal with a single retailers and commerce media operators, actually. So it's much harder, actually, for investors and for agencies. And programmatic can work, actually, in actually filling the gap, actually, of capabilities. I love your viewpoint, Paul, as well. Limiting adoption as a result of that. We always discuss about positive things, but actually we need to be aware that there are some concerns and challenges sometimes raised by retailers. It can be actually not having visibility. Managed sales is an easy word. You decide who comes in. Self-service is not, actually, back to your point, which is very available. And then the industry standards topic as well can be a challenge. Can you please elaborate on this topic? And I will start by actually one of the largest media groups in the world as a starting point, as Mason, to you first, I would say, and then the other panelists, please.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, there are many challenges, but let me put it this way. I think the biggest challenge is how can we, from a retailer perspective, how can we monetize our ecosystem by adding this programmatic layer without really degrading the shopper experience and impacting that experience, right? Because you don't want to add the on-site and then bombarding the consumer by so many different ads, non-realistic ads, and so on. But that opened a lot of doors and topics, right? Because the challenges would come from, as you mentioned, the sales, right? The go-to-market strategy, then adding the tech infrastructure, then which SSP, how are we going to do it, with also the combination between on-site and then off-site and so on. And then what I also look into, and then what I have been helping retailers is really the standardization, right? So, and that lead them to hiring someone expert working in programmatic and media to be able to lead that operation from a operation perspective and also from a sales perspective. So in a very quick summary, I don't think it's a straightforward operation. I mean, it brings in more complication to their operation, but I think that's a short-term challenge problem. But if we have been looking into it in the last 2 years before talking about success later, the best way to put it is really to have them hire someone really expert on that perspective and really help them with that operation. And that's why Publicis came in the last 2 years, helping retailers because we are also a reseller, and then we have introduced to many SSPs, and we have helped many retailers in the region by enabling programmatic. And funny enough, back in 2012, my first job was really programmatic. So I built the first trading desk at Publicis back in 2012 in MENA and Singapore. So we have been having that experience and knowledge in MENA in the region. So that's really part of the challenges. So yeah.
Thank you. Amazing. You have a different view, Paul, or you align with that?
I don't think so. I think there are two challenges that I think we'll see in programmatic. One is around education, which I guess leans a little bit into what Mazen was saying. And then the second is about field of dreams. So we'll come to that in a moment. That's my spoiler. So on the first point around education, there's look, where retail media networks hiring from, right? Sometimes it's from the retail side. So media's new, right? And then once you start talking about programmatic guaranteed, once you start talking about the difference between an open buy versus, this is deal IDs, right? What's that concept mean? So the way we think about it here at Coady is we're thinking about not so much display, although that can be a part of it, but it's about SKU-based buying, right? So entering into the auction to bid on the products that would appear in, sponsored product advertising. So the idea of having strange ads appearing in that, well, it's impossible, because unless you stock the SKU, you couldn't ever get it. So those kind of education pieces is one thing. But I think the fear with programmatic is often, especially if you haven't had that education in media for a long time before, is what went on at the beginning of programmatic in display and some of the challenges we went through. But then when you think of where programmatic is in video or in audio or in out of home, right? We're not seeing those challenges, right? We've learned those areas. So there's no reason why retail media should be, going through those kind of challenges. So I think there's that. And then I think the second bit on the field of dreams is the fact that what we're talking about here is building pipes, is enabling buyers to be able to choose the way they want to buy your media package with data, whatever that may be. But just because you build a pipe doesn't mean that the sales are going to come. So I think the challenge is thinking, okay, great, I still need my go-to-market here, especially if I'm thinking about private marketplaces and deal IDs. This isn't just going to be about turning on a GAM style situation. I mean, that is something that some people do, but that's not what we're, I think, talking about in this session.
Amazing, thank you. And then we miss the Uber standpoint right now. To you.
I think both Paul and Mazen has touched on a lot of the challenges that we are seeing on the retail media network side really well. The way that we would see, I think, challenges probably the sheer velocity of expectations, whether it's internal or external, because it's like when you launch a retail media network, it's ultimately a change management internally to go through. And how can you actually build a competitive full stack programmatic platform isn't technically just a technical build internally. And that goes back to Paul's point of view around talent as well. Like, who are you actually hiring to make that education really well internally to make sure that you're industry standard ready for agencies and clients to have a buy-in to. And I would say it's almost like, how can you shift a retailer going from a merchant first mindset to a high performance tech ready media mindset is a really big job for any retail media network builders out there, because the internal complexity is the reality of for all of these businesses. And actually, when you launch, it's not one and done. Keeping that stack actually probably current, up to date, up to the standards that we'll probably even see more now with AI is going to be, or the number one hurdle, and probably going to be also the hurdle that we all have to go through as any of the retail media networks today.
Amazing.
Just to build on this, sorry to interrupt.
No,
I like what Paul said about the dream. Look, I think the biggest challenge that also we as media agency we have with retailers is really the pipe that we open up their programmatic, and really how can we manage that properly with the other streams that we have within the retailer. And then it's not, if you enable the on-site, then the pipe will start flowing immediately, because we still have a lot of work to be done before we have a full functional product on site, which of course the talent, the education, the added value, the case studies, and then the pipe will start flowing slowly, and then the money will come. But I think I'm agreeing with Paul and Selen, of course, but I think there's a lot of education and more work to be done beyond technical as well to get the adoption ready from a brand perspective, especially for endemics.
Yeah. No, thank you for the perspective, and a lot to discuss, a lot about cultural and capabilities transformation still in AI era, but in most of the cases, the buyers and the sellers are still humans, actually. So you need to deal with their capabilities, their feelings, and if they feel confident with the platform. And as all great points, actually, from you, actually, but then jumping on the opportunity side, because in a way, I think some of you are ambassadors actually of programmatic, like you, Mazen. So I would like to hear more on the opportunity side. We discussed on challenges perceived, and it's good to start by that. But actually, let's move on the other side, on the real opportunity. And the specific ask is that if you have, considering your collective amazing experience, some maybe success stories to share as well, where, I don't know, there was an unsold inventory of like 50% of the inventory, and by leveraging on programmatic, actually you have been able to change the game actually to sell much more. But I don't want to discuss on KPIs because that will come later. But let's focus now on stories and what you see as an opportunity actually for programmatic, actually for selling the idea to retailers first, I think. Who is going to start? Actually, I leave to you. It might
Paul,
be
you want to start?
Paul in this time, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. There's so many opportunities here, right? You only have to have any kind of real conversation about fill rates, and it's like, oh yeah, we have great fill rates. Yeah, right. In that area, you do. Go into the other category, those other terms, it ain't so good, right? We know this, right? So there's huge opportunity to bring it in. Okay, of your top 10,000, 5,200 advertisers, how many of them are actually active today, and how many of you struggling to have a conversation with, or could be spending more, do you think? There's so much opportunity if we can remove some of this friction in enabling easier ways to buy. So there's clearly fantastic opportunity there, tapping into different sorts of budgets, having, a DSP or a separate media business bundle your on-site into a wider, maybe upper funnel campaign they're doing. So, I'm running a campaign for Nestle, I'm running connected TV via one of the DSPs, and the DSP creates a package where your on-site is bundled into that. So if the user sees your connected TV and okay, it's meant to be a branding piece or consideration, but you know what, it goes onto a Q-commerce platform and actually just does a quick search. Wouldn't it be great if you could boost the search of the visibility of that exact product, knowing they just seen it in a connected TV environment, right? This is huge, the opportunity there. It is exactly. So it's not that these things are impossible without programmatic today. Clearly they are, and many retailers are already doing those kind of things. But are you able to do it so it's just part of the general connected TV of any of those brands that they're doing, via media agencies? So I think that's the clear opportunity to me. It's like a combination of removing friction, tapping into those other advertisers that are out there, and enabling that connection from a data perspective about other things that are going on outside of your kind of owned and operated.
Lastly, I would think of Céline actually as next, actually, in order maybe to share a story directly from you or from some investors, and then maybe leave to you actually to choose, actually, for sure.
Definitely. I think +1 to everything, Paul mentioned. I think it's the scalability of the opportunity that programmatic brings from an access point of view to like hundreds of brands, because the reality is not in, retail media networks don't have enough of, field sales teams to be able to cater to every single brand out there. So the fact that you can just scale up everything from a self-serve point of view is phenomenal as a capability. When I actually look at our US business, when they partnered up with Instacart, what we call is obviously, long tail brands or tail and torso brands. They were actually, over time, they have supercharged their long tail brands, which when you think about US economy and scale, that has enabled them of a huge access from a search and display point of view to be able to activate. We're also seeing a similar touch points within, I think, with our Criteo partnership across Europe. Similarly, we have, I think, within video display point of view, we have partnerships with DV360, Trade Desk. We're seeing a similar story of adoption increasing and having or being a new retail media network. in the market, because when we think about UK, we've been operating for the last 3 years. It's actually quite promising to see that brands can actually enable and activate through the platforms that they have already been operating with. So I would say that scalability has been the key for us from a programmatic point of view.
I love this positioning as a helper of programmatic in removing actually the frictions, actually helping partnerships and contributing to the overall growth. I don't know if Mason, if you wanna comment on this one as well. Yeah, I'll leave to you.
Maybe just
Yes.
in 2 minutes, a quick one. So of course I do agree +2 with the Paul and Céline, but just I want to give the perspective on how we deal with it for brands. I think the biggest value today is I will give you maybe 2 quick examples. As for example, when we work with a mom product, like baby formula milk or Pampers or Huggies, any of these products, and then we go and put the ad on a mother care or baby shop website. So the biggest advantage for a brand is that you are showing your ad, the ad, the creative or the product to someone, a mom or a dad, who are in the moment of shopping and looking for different types of products like clothes or any other items, but then you are showing them your product, and then that's where it's the closest time for them to either refill because they are a loyal consumer, or maybe they are curious because they are showing maybe I mean, I like baby formula. I worked for 7 years with the baby formula. So showing them the advantage of why you want to use or switch that milk product, the nutrition and the local nutrition and so on. So really is really showing the value. And then of course, the beauty of what we can do on programmatic is dynamically changing the ad. So again, the case that we work on, when you work on mother care or these clothes website, if the mom or the dad is looking from 0 to 3 or 3 to 6, then you can dynamically change the product as well to match that age that someone is looking into on the product website. So I think this is what we on-site bring to all brands. I'm just giving you one example, but this can be replicated across multiple retailers based on the context that we're talking about, is really bringing your brand closer to the consumer at a right moment where they are in the right mindset to really take a decision to shop. Maybe they will shop at that moment, maybe not, but at least you are there for them, and then it's the mental availability is there as well. I wanted to add that small example and something that we have been working on.
It's always very helpful to see real examples in action. Let's say with the children, for example. I love that. And we started discussing on fill rates, kind of KPIs and measurements. So my next question will be on how to measure success in a way in programmatic on site. So you need something beyond actually the traditional ROAS, or what do you see as the key measures on both sides? I would say both on retailers and brands. Are they different in programmatic, or can you use the same as a big?
I mean, it has to be. It has to. And the elephant in the room that we're not addressing, right, is that, especially me as the ad tech vendor here, is, well, you're going to be adding ad tech vendors into the chain, right? And they're all going to be taking fees. So there has to be a very clear success metric, because otherwise you might as well stick with your direct, right? And that's me as the vendor in the middle saying that exact piece, right? Of course. Is this incremental, right? Are we doing significantly better than we would have done without this? Are our advertisers saying this has really improved things for us? This is a deeper, more stable relationship for us. Are you leaning? I mean, it's got to ultimately be about those incremental budgets, that whatever is happening from a growth perspective is being accelerated as a result of this. It has to be. That's got to be a really, really clear objective up front. I don't know why I'm talking myself out of this, but there we go. But no, that's absolutely the questions that any of our partners are asking us all the time.
Yeah. Any different perspective from you actually on metrics and KPIs?
Yeah, Céline, go ahead. Maybe I will go ahead.
No, I mean, I was thinking ROAS, regardless of programmatic, cannot be just a baseline of a success metric, probably, or measurement. It can be a guidance baseline, but not a strategy, considering it often looks backwards, not forwards, and it requires a lot more context to it in order to make it meaningful anyway. I think from our point of view, considering we have both endemic and non-endemic, like mobility and delivery as a platform, we tend to, I think, measure based on the context of that brand objective. So with an endemic side, with a delivery sense, think of take restaurant brand as an example within delivery. To Paul's point, are you talking about incrementality, basket growth, new to brand as a success metric so that we can actually make a meaningful outcome of that? And then for non-endemic with, for example, mobility, if you're a luxury brand targeting, people going to the airport, are you actually shifting something in their brand, like upper funnel metrics? So click doesn't necessarily become a success model there. You have to talk about from maybe a relevancy point of view at that point, because you're utilizing such a niche targeting signal to be at the top of mind for people. So I would say, we have to think about what the brand objective is to be able to get backwards to the measurement KPI there.
Amazing, thank you. Any other perspective, Mason?
Yeah, of course I agree with Paul and Céline, but I kind of disagree on not the end goal, but the perspective on how we move to get that goal. Because first, we need to look into what Céline mentioned, the endemic and endemic. The endemic are easier to really measure and get the ROAS. For brands, again, like non-endemic, and I work with a lot of real estate in Dubai, financial institutions as well, a lot of them, and we have a big part of governmental and tourism. Of course, ROAS, booking hotels, booking a park, and these kind of things is the end goal. But I would tell you that today we can unlock this from day one. No. But that's why we have to put a sales end goal, and then we have to put a media goal as well. And then we have to work slowly from switching that media goal into a sales goal and a end goal. And then we have to work with a retailer. And then, as we said in the previous questions, is really the education and so on to be able to take that retailer to be able to bring in the closed loop measurement and help to get that ROAS in. But what we look into, we do brand sales, brand lift studies. We do, of course, incremental. I agree with Paul, but we also look into in phase one into CTR, into viewability. So we look into the foundation of IAB, and then I think IAB, if you have seen it, there's 14 pages a measurement framework that have been put in place. If we need to follow the basic and then go to where Paul and Céline are mentioning in an advanced situation, but what I have seen as a challenge that some retailers aren't being able to really get the foundation done before running and getting the ROAS. So I think viewability, attention metrics, and then we can look into effective CPM. So all these are the foundation of a successful campaign in phase one. But again, the ROAS and the UTM parameters and the closed loop measurement will be the end goal.
Perfect. I think I will ask you the last question, but I ask you really to get it in pills because we're running out of time. Unfortunately, as usual, it's very interesting, but usually time is 3. Regarding the future scenario, actually, in a few keywords, actually, how would you describe actually programmatic and successful programmatic in the next, I would say, 12 to 18 months? That's important for the audience actually to project actually what to do in the future as well. I'll leave to you. Who wants to start? Actually, I'm not influencing this time, so leave to you. Yeah.
For me, I think programmatic within retail media, the first phase was probably more about access. So the next wave probably it has to become utility. So the networks that will win probably are the easiest to buy, easiest to measure, most integrated, also from a consumer's actual day-to-day life, so that there's enriched data from that point of view. So I would say that's the most important bit that we'll hopefully see in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yep. Who comes next? Paul? I see.
Yeah, sure, I can go. I think that I just don't want to hear anymore that, I as a brand am buying across too many retail media networks and it's a total headache for me. that should go away. Right? That should go away, because if you can buy across, 50, 150 publishers very easily via a DSP, why would you do you hear like I need to be reducing that down to like 3? Like, no, they don't say that, right? Because it's easy to do that. So I'm excited about the fragmentation. Like, you can have that as a quote. Paul is excited about the fragmentation because this is not a problem in the world of programmatic. This is fine. This is great. And if I can adjust using IB standards, the attribution across all those, great. I can compare apples with apples. This is very, very cool. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Amazing. Thank you. And back to you, Mazen.
Yeah, well, I do agree, of course, with what they both mentioned. I think for me, it's about maturity. We are already in initial stage. We have been doing this for a couple of years. I think really being able, as Paul mentioned, to be able to have a omni retailer solution. I think that's the dream of every brand, retailer, agency, to be able to really activate across many retailers, to have the same foundation for measurement, so you can measure the same across all retailers. I think that would be a great success, and of course more adoption, I would say, from retailers and brands, because even if we have the greatest solution and then there is no adoption from brands to bring the revenue for retailers and the case studies, I don't think any product would be successful. So we need more adoption, and then with that, of course, talent and go-to-market strategy are key to do it. And that's, of course, as the three of us here, if we partner with retailers and tech, we can definitely achieve that.
Amazing. I thank you, and I'll leave back to Patricia, I guess, or Jason.
Thank you.
Actually, for maybe Yara is back. So I'll leave back to you, please.
Thank you so much, Alessandro, and thank you to all the panelists. I was sitting here wishing to be able to discuss with you guys, and it was a mutual feeling for our audience. We received so many questions. Unfortunately, we do not have the time to answer all the questions right now, but we will send you the answers with the recording. So thank you for this great discussion and debate. And now I'm very happy to welcome Yara for a short presentation on the new standards for retail and commerce media, measurement version 2 Flexi formats, and the road to version 3.
Thank you, Patricia. And sorry, I heard there was some drama finding me. So apologies, everyone, for that. But I do love the nods. Thank you, Mazen and Paul, for mentioning the standards a couple of times. This comes in really handy for our next section. So thank you. Give me 1 second and I will pull up the presentation. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to get going on V2 of standards. I'm always here to talk about slightly boring topics, so hopefully I can make it exciting for you. One of the core challenges that remains is the lack of standardization. We ran a survey in 2025, and I'm sure if we run it in 2026 again, the results will be similar, because standardization is still a big barrier for retail media investment. Buyers are not comparing apples to apples often, and that is really frustrating, and it creates a bunch of extra work. So what we aim to do is solve for that, or provide a framework so that the retailers and the ad tech companies can go and adhere to that framework and solve for it. So think of us and the work we're doing as ground zero, foundational, and allowing the industry to come together to then build against those standards. Like Mazen said, it's not a very long document. It's over a dozen pages document, the V2 of retail media measurement. So please go ahead and read it if you haven't. We run training sessions on it. And our goal is to enable performance comparison so that brands and agency can easily compare performance across different retail media networks, remove ambiguity so that when somebody is saying ROAS, we all mean the same thing, or when somebody's saying CPC or viewability or whatever it is, those words mean the same thing. Sometimes we assume they do, but they don't. So that's really what we're trying to do, and then lay the groundwork for future enhancements so that this becomes the language we can all speak. And as we get into more sophisticated or difficult problems, we're not discussing the basics, if that makes sense. The other piece of work that we've put out is the IAB Europe Flexi ad format guidelines, and that has Flexi sizes, as the title indicates, Flexi ads. And that, please, it's very important that we understand what it is. So it is meant to allow retailers to have Flexi formats in display on their site. Those are not guidelines for sponsored products. Sponsored products are native, they're in grid, and those are not guidelines for whatever the sponsored products that come with an image, which different people call different things. We call them shopping ads. Those are not for that. Those have different formats. The Flexi sizes are really for display, what you think of as traditional display, a creative unit on the site that doesn't have a native sponsored ad within it. And the benefit of that is streamlining ad formats for broader programmatic access, operational efficiency, and enhanced customer experience, because they are meant to really fit within the retail sites, or very traditional display formats that are built for publishers are not really built for the retail world. IAB Europe's Commerce Media Measurement Standard V2, which is what Paul and Mazen alluded to earlier, and which I started our presentation with, to refines a couple of things. It has a measurement funnel, which includes updated and more detailed measurement funnel for better analysis. So it goes from the broadest down to the tightest thing, which we will call incrementality. And then it has a definition for gross and net sales. If you're slightly new to this world, you might be thinking, I know what a gross sale is. And you probably do, but the one thing that we've seen time and time again, especially in grocery and in fashion, is that some retailers will report on any sale that happens independent of cart adjustments. Think of your grocery. You've put in something day 1, then day 5, you've gone and adjusted, and delivery is day 6. Or returns in fashion. We buy all of those things and then we return 5 different sizes. If you have a bad shopping habit like me and don't like to go in stores and order 7 different sizes for the same jeans. So what we've said is that gross sales is what we would refer to as sales, and then net sales accounts for all of those different things. And if a retailer doesn't specify, then they're referring to gross sales. And the last one is quick commerce metrics. So the big nod to Volt and Uber and Deliveroo for helping us, and Just Eat Takeaway for helping us build those commerce metrics. And what we've now done is define things like when you have a store like Waitrose and a brand like Pepsi within that store, what are the right terminologies and the way to measure for those things? And that is slightly different from a traditional retail media use case. And then let's talk a little bit about our priorities going into 2026. Our priorities are to evolve the current commerce media standards into travel and finance. We are starting with travel, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, and then expand into in-store measurement, start concretizing this a little bit more so that at some point we could bring it into our certification program. Today, just to be clear, we don't issue certification on in-store yet, but we do have it for all on-site and off-site formats, and enhance the certification program. So these are the 3 things. Travel media was the first one on that list. There are topics that were identified as key things that might be different from retail and travel. We are doing a workshop this summer with some travel companies, and we have some great companies that are going to be helping us support it. If you know anyone in the travel space that needs to be part of that workshop, please refer them to us. We really want this to be a cross-industry collaboration work to come up with the most valuable piece of standards possible. So the things we're going to be looking at are look-back windows. Are they different, and do they need to be different from retail? ROAS calculation, There are things like accounting for resort fees and ancillary charges, which I know nothing about, but hopefully the travel companies can highly educate us on. And then incrementality. We've done a lot of work on incrementality in a retail setting. Are the methodologies any different in travel? And maybe the answer is not, but these are the things we're going to explore. And then cancellations, cookie deprecation, and destinations definitions. I'm really excited about that one. The participants so far are Booking.com, Expedia, Kayak, Marriott, Skyscanner, and then a couple of ad tech companies like Coty has been a big supporter. So if you know, again, anyone else that needs to be part of those workshop discussions, we would love to have them be part of the group. Certification is another big one and a big priority for us. Our goal is to promote a level playing field and enable fair competition, promote transparency, ensure everyone is held to the same standard, and self-regulate. IAB Europe's certification program was issued or started about a year ago. We now have one retailer certified and a couple that are very close to being certified, as well as ad tech companies. The more retailers and ad tech companies join and get certified, the more we can talk about that apple to apple comparison and put it behind us. Who can be certified? Retailers and CMNs and ad tech companies. And a question we often get is, do I need to be certified for everything I do? And the short of it is no. You could be certified for, say, on-site sponsored products only, or off-site social only, or all of the above permutations. One certification could be, again, for all of those or just for one of those things. You choose your combination. Like I said earlier, in-store is not yet in scope, but hopefully as we refine those standards, it will become in scope. And that's it for me. Please scan this to learn more and find out about our certification program. Thank you.
Thank you, Yara, so much. It's clear that retail and commerce media continues to scale. Standardization and measurement are becoming increasingly critical to driving consistency, of course, transparency and long-term growth across the ecosystem. So all the topics you mentioned are very important. It's always good to have you here. So as we are coming to our last topic for this great debate, I hand over to Jason.
So to close out today's event, we'll move into our final session, a short showcase that brings some of these themes to life. So in this session, we'll hear how retail data is being used in practice to enhance audience targeting, improve media efficiency, and ultimately drive better business outcomes across the open internet. So please join me in welcoming Tim Abraham from the Trade Desk. Tim, over to you. You've got about 10 minutes. Sorry, always when you go last, you get squeezed a bit. But yeah, I know you got it in you, champ. So look forward to this, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm also conveniently wearing the same jumper as I am in that photo, which is, I'm sure, very exciting for everyone. Actually, just to introduce myself. So I run our retail data partnerships at Trade Desk. Before I jump in, actually, Jason, I just wanted to say a big thanks to you and Patricia and also all the people at IB. Like, this group, I think, is incredible, and we've achieved some really good stuff over the years. So I'm very happy to be part of it, happy to be here. And I don't know, I assume you and Patricia both have day jobs. So thank you for making the time for us all. With that in mind, actually, just to give a little bit more, let me try and share my screen as well here. Okay. So I'm assuming people can see this. Just to give a bit of context. So at Trade Desk, we work with retailers across lots of different ways. So increasingly what we're seeing is that retailers want to have a single solution for their kind of retail media business as for their brand marketing business. So basically generate some revenue stream from retail media drive more value with less budget from their advertising piece, and both of those things then include or improve the kind of bottom line position for their core retail operations. So Trade Desk kind of helps retailers across lots of things as publishers and as retail media networks and data providers. What I will talk about today actually is the use of Trade Desk when retailers are using us as a kind of monetization route to market for their data. And there's two pieces that I try to do or we'll try and cover here. And obviously you can reach out afterwards. I think we're going to send around the deck, so you'll have that. We wanted to start actually first with top level across the whole platform. How do we see retail data actually driving performance? And it was really interesting hearing the guys talk earlier about AI. Frankly, some of it is like so exciting and so like esoteric and new that I just wanted to keep it quite simple, because I'm a quite simplistic kind of guy, and just keep it on like, we are already seeing at Trade Desk that if you tick the box to use multi-retailer audiences and apply AI to those, we're seeing that drive performance. And then the second thing we'll go through is like actually much more tactical, much more kind of micro, one campaign running for Nestle, and we can share some results for that as well. So with that in mind, just a quick kind of, again, contextualization. So we work with a bunch of retailers for that data monetization use case globally. I'd say there's lots of reasons why, but ultimately it's because we provide a neutral platform for them. So we don't own media. We don't have any bias in how data is used other than just driving performance. So the reason I mention this is because when we think about how is data used across like all campaigns through the platform, that is a mix of all the data that you're seeing on this slide. So if we think about, and it came up in the panel just then with Paul talking about the need to have like consolidated access to multiple retailers, that is live through the Trade Desk. And let me get to the kind of interesting bit, I guess. So a lot on this slide. Let me try and do something somewhat fancy here. It took me 20 years of working in ad tech before I knew you could do this. So there you go. So just actually to start with, so this graph here is showing that as relevance increases, CPA falls. So relevance, think of that as being an AI-generated score that tells you how similar a segment is to your target audience. So what this graph is basically saying is if you turn on AI to optimize and pick segments for you, the campaign performance improves. So as I said at the upfront, it's a somewhat simple message, but this is running across hundreds of brands and hundreds of data sources globally. And it's a really clear correlation here. So for example, this is really a manifestation of what we've already heard today, which is we are starting to see now advertisers go beyond the concept of, I'm just going to buy a category buyer. So let's say I'm soft drinks brand. Naively, I just log in and target soft drinks, buyers that have bought soft drinks previously. With the advent of AI and real world AI, is yes, you do that, but in addition to ticking that I want to buy previous category buyers, the system will then agentically go and actually start to identify kind of micro segments that will then drive better performance. So again, takeaway of this slide basically is just an attempt to show to this group at least that the AI that we all hear so much about, and frankly there's a lot of hype about, actually is real and driving more performance for clients. So that's what I wanted to land with that one. And then to kind of go into the second case study, this was running with Nestle. And before I get into the actual data, just give you the headline story. Basically what we wanted to, or what Nestle wanted to do, was run or focus or understand, let's say, how upper funnel media, so brand media, impacts actual business outcomes. So I guess many people are familiar with Peter Field, and he's done this work, long and the short of it, which effectively is saying that if you index just to kind of bottom of funnel, then you will drive short-term performance gains, but you don't drive kind of brand favorability and awareness. So what we wanted to show, and what we did show, is that by driving ads across full funnel, big impact CTV media and so on, what you actually end up doing is driving this brand favorability and awareness that then translates into actual sales outcomes. So that's the kind of too long don't read. So as you say here, so the challenge was understand how, excuse me, how retail data could enhance effectiveness of full funnel campaigns. So it's running across multiple channels. Another key call out on here, which I try to put in bold here. So they ran actually, so from within the trade desk, they set up their campaign and literally just tick a box to turn it to target data from different retailers. You always see which those retailers are, but you're able to reach data from multiple retailers at one point from one platform. And then, as I mentioned, what was kind of interesting and why we tried to turn this into a case study was they both measured ROAS through actual closed loop measurement of somebody saw an ad, somebody purchased, but also looked at upper funnel impact, which was delivered through a brand lift study. So we wanted to see, do those two like brand KPIs correlate with sales outcomes KPIs? And the answer, otherwise I guess I wouldn't be presenting it, is that they did correlate. So what we saw actually, if you kind of look at this one here, so by using that retail data, we had 7 times lower cost per acquisition. So CPA was 7 times lower, and the ROAS was just inversely correlated in the same way. And we also drove higher brand preference. So again, what we are showing here is that, yes, you should focus some retail budget. And it was really interesting hearing the debate with Unlimitail and Zitcha about, like, is it separate or isn't it? But for sure, you should certainly understand that there's an interaction between that brand building and actual bottom of funnel performance. So that's what this case study is showing. And then just lastly, a wise person told me once you should say what you're going to say 3 times. So here I am saying it the 3rd time. So the point of this, so we have access to consolidated data across the globe. And then this one we just talked about last. So measuring the impact of full funnel on both branding KPIs and performance. We can see those two things move in the same direction. And then again, we have this actual real world data now showing that if you allow AI to help you pick audiences and build segments, you actually do see that back out in improved performance. As I say, we'll share these around. Hopefully that was interesting. I think I'm on time. So thank you, and I'll hand back.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tim, for that insightful showcase. It was really interesting to see the real world example and the case. So thank you so much. It's a great reminder of how retail data, when applied effectively, can drive meaningful outcomes. So it was really good to see your case. Thank you so much. And I know 2 hours can look long, but in this our case, they weren't. So we are already wrapping up this great debate. And as we wrap it up, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our speakers. We had so many great discussions, to, of course, our moderators and panelists for generously sharing your expertise and all of your perspectives, speaking openly, sharing different perspectives and views on very, very controversial topics. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining today and your engagement, your questions, and your participation through this whole discussion. Throughout today, we've explored the strong momentum shaping retail media, for breaking down silos, advancing in-store innovation, to growing importance of incrementality and measurement, and the critical role of European standardization in this whole topic. It's clear that retail media remains one of the most dynamic and fast evolving areas of our industry, and through collaboration, shared standards, and open dialogue like today, we have a real opportunity to shape its future into a more scalable, transparent, and effective ecosystem for all of our stakeholders. I now hand over to Jason for a few last remarks on today.
Thanks. So before we close, a quick reminder of a few opportunities to continue your retail media journey with us. So first, our Retail Media Certification Program, an industry-first initiative designed to set a new benchmark for transparency, fairness, and accountability in retail media measurement. This program enables retailers to validate their adherence to industry standards and demonstrate best practices across the ecosystem. Next, we're also delighted to announce the second edition of IAB Europe Retail Media Impact Summit taking place on the 7th of October in Amsterdam. This flagship leadership event will bring together 200 plus senior decision makers from retailers and advertisers to technology partners and policy leaders to help define the future of retail media across Europe and beyond. So you can scan the QR codes on your screen now to learn more. I think there is still some sponsorship branding packages up for grabs, although I think they're quite limited now because we've already got some sponsors on board. So thank you if you're one of those sponsors. And then if you enjoyed today's event, we have plenty more on the horizon. If you're we're heading to London next week for our special hybrid event, Virtual Programmatic Day. You can join us virtually from anywhere in the world, or if you're quick, you might be able to snag one of the very last remaining in-person spots in London. So don't miss out on the chance to connect with the community and join other events. And then you can have your say with the AI Impact Survey. So we've officially launched our second annual Impact of AI on Digital Advertising Survey. This year's updated study dives deep into how the ecosystem is adopting, governing, and investing in AI. So you can help shape the industry's future. Scan here to take the survey. So finally, thank you once again to all of you for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time and engagement. We look forward to welcoming you to our upcoming events. Until then, take care and see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.